Hello, welcome to the show. Today we are exploring tea as an ally for students and their busy schedules. And this includes children going back to school and for students entering college and university years. I'm Michelle Greenwell, and my specialty is understanding the tools and activities that bring bioenergetic wellness. And what does bioenergetic wellness mean? I'm looking for the tools that lift people up and bring harmony to their systems so their emotions are balanced, so their mind is clear, and their body moves easily and freely. This sounds perfect, doesn't it? I'm also a tea artist, and that is, I enjoy bringing the value of herbs to daily activities in a way that lifts people up and brings the same balance and harmony to the systems that movement and energy lifting activities can do. Tea is a simple, sugar-free, effective way to add self-care to the day without much extra effort. And if you're making your tea at home, rather than picking one up along the way, then you have control over the content, the care of the herbs, and the quality of the drink that you're choosing. You also have the opportunity to be very careful with the water, because a lot of the teas that are made, the water is boiled and is so hot, it actually burns the herbs. And then you don't get the same quality out of them. Also, if they're packed inside a tiny tea bag, the herbs don't get to open up and share. And the space is what's really important for herbs. Okay, let's get started. So I usually ask my guests what tea they brought to the conversation for the day. So I'm going to ask you that question. What have you got that you sat down with to listen to this podcast? So you may have a glass of water. You may have some tea. You may have a cup of coffee. If you only drink water all day, because some people do tell me that when I'm doing the markets, I'm always asking, what kind of tea do you drink? And some people will say, I only drink water. That can be good, but what if you're missing some micronutrients? Hydration is great, but hydration can also be amplified. So perhaps you drink your water first thing in the morning, which is really important, and also at the end of the day, which is really important. And throughout the day, you're able to change and evaluate what it is you're drinking in order to continue to hydrate, but also provide nutrients at the same time. So as you're thinking about what you have, could you have added tea ice cubes to your water bottle? Perhaps you could have had a cold tea that was in the fridge. Perhaps you've got one at room temperature. That's how I like to drink most everything. And then, of course, you could have your freshly steeped tea. So always think about where in the day you notice that your energy starts to drop out. And even though you stay hydrated, maybe you could be adding a little bit more nutritionally into what you're doing. Okay, today I chose HoneyBEE. And I chose HoneyBEE because I wanted to share for students. So now I'm saying students, but those of us in the working world, it caters to us too. So here's my HoneyBEE package. Let's turn it so you can see. So for those people that are listening, I'm just holding up, it's a silver package. All my packages are silver, and then I have the white square on it that has the label. In the top corner, there's a little circle, and that tells us that this tea actually balances the 5 elements from Chinese medicine all at one time, because there's herbs represented within the tea that can help support each of the systems. And then also on the package, it's got herbal in one small corner at the bottom, and the other corner is caffeine free. All right, so there's always a way to read what is happening with the packages of tea that I create. So HoneyBEE, feel the boost to your spirit and the playfulness and joy that transpires. A zest to life is encouraged with each sip. All right, a lot of people will have an affirmation that they'll say for the day, but they say the same affirmation every day. Abundance and joy, health, energy for the day, things like that, which are more of a generic kind of thing. And those will be lovely. But when you ask for abundance, you need to ask where, because sometimes you can have abundant things in your house. You can have abundant people who are around all the time and you want more privacy. You can have lots of things happening with abundance. So you have to be really careful how you manifest with that. But the affirmation on this one is really about remembering to be playful and to really be involved in the spirit of what you're doing. And I like that because as a student, if you're a younger student and you're in school and you're in the grades, you're just trying to get to the end of the day. You want to finish your education piece so that you can get over to the lessons that you get to take. Maybe you're going back to the farm to work on the farm, but maybe you are going for a music lesson, a dance lesson, maybe you play sports. You're actually waiting for those activities that really are the things you love to do rather than the subjects that you have to study. So this reminds you to be playful and to just stop, be in the moment. These moments are here, so enjoy them. Add things to them that really lift you up. And then as you get to the activities that you really want to do, you want to have enough energy to be able to do those activities. So that's going to be really important. Now, from a student's perspective who's in college, university, trade school, you want to have the energy to be able to support your learning because you chose to be there. And you want to have the vitality to be engaging with your educators, engaging with your community. If you're on a work placement, to be able to really be involved in getting as much skill and advancement in what you're studying so that you can be really good at what you're doing by the time you graduate. So this one, reminding you to have playfulness and spirit in what you're doing all day long can be really important. That's going to change the quality of the kind of day that you're going to have. Okay, so now that I've said a little bit about that, if you're in business or you go to a job every day, you can start to think about if you wish your day away. You know, you're always waiting for Friday, trying to get over the halfway on Wednesday. And if you're doing that, that's a lot of your time that you're just trying to push past in order to get to the things you love. So loving what you do every day can be really important. All right, so with HoneyBEE, I'm just going to lift mine up. You can't really see the color. So I chose a teacup today that's similar. So it's got poppies on the outside, which are bright red. Now my tea is not bright red, but my tea is a pinky red. And it's a beautiful light one. And the other thing about tea is if you take the moment to smell it, that actually bypasses the whole nervous system. And it goes right into the brain and connects you and grounds you. So smell is really important. And a lot of times as we're going about the day, we forget about smell. We're visually seeing things, we're verbally saying things, we're tactilely tapping into a keyboard, maybe we're manipulating tools, and we forget about the sense of smell. And the opportunity to just take that moment. That time it's vanilla that I'm getting. All right. Cheers. Thank you for coming to the podcast. Oh, it's always is like having a best friend. I just love it. Okay. So on the back of the HoneyBEE package, there are some more affirmations. So I'll just turn the package so you can see. All right. For all of the teas with intention, so we have a full series, there's 14 teas altogether. They all have extra affirmations on the back and a different way to connect in with the herbs than when you're making just, I'll call it the regular cup of tea, because all the teas at the Cape Breton Tea Company are not always regular, but I'll just say that. So the teas with intention have these different ways of creating your tea and then what affirmation that you want to choose from. So affirmations are a way of setting our compass towards our goals and visualizing our outcomes. And at the end of the year or a series of years, what do you plan to be doing or how do you want to feel with your accomplishments? So one of the affirmations on the back is, I am enough, I am full, and I am empowered. I'm just going to let you sit with that for a moment. So this can be helpful with those who have confidence challenges or who question their self-worth. Or how about this affirmation? I choose this one. I offer myself the joy, love, and compassion I deserve daily. For those days when you have trouble starting the day with enough sleep, you have an exam or an assignment due, or you have a heavy work schedule with studying, this might be a good reminder to take care of yourself. Usually that becomes something you do at the end, but it really should be at the start, because how you take care of yourself, it determines how everything else is going to unfold for you. So once we have the compass set and our goals and our intentions are in mind, what is next? We need a way to activate and engage the compass. And this could be through engaging with the herbs. So that's the way that you're going to make the tea, smelling it at the beginning, sipping on it. That could be your action. But let's look deeper into the herbs. This is where it gets really exciting for me as a tea artist. As a tea artist, I really enjoy the color that comes out of the tea. I enjoy the combinations that come together, putting the affirmations together that are going to really encompass what this tea blend is going to represent. That's why I call myself a tea artist and not a sommelier. But let's look at the ingredients within this tea. So we've got apple, hibiscus, rosehip, vanilla, honeybush, and ginger. So there's not a lot of ingredients. And underneath it says a sugar-free cup of sweetness with ginger and vanilla. So I said sugar-free because a lot of people forget that you don't need to add anything to tea. You don't need to add milk, and you don't need to add a sweetener. It comes that way with the herbs that are included in it. And so to really cater to really picking up the nuances of the flavors that have been added to the tea rather than masking them by adding something else to it. All right, so we have that piece. So let's go to apple. So there's a phrase that people will often say, which is an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, this is actually pretty true. Apples are very powerful as a fruit, as a way to nourish yourself, something particularly for students. Definitely having an apple in your backpack is a great way to have a quick, nourishing piece of fruit available for you when you get a little bit hungry or you're feeling that drop. But let's look at it from what its qualities are. So the nutritional value of apple, although we have just a hint of it in the tea, apple can support stabilizing blood sugar, lowering cholesterol, reducing blood pressure, releasing inflammation. It can help with the gut biome, and it can satisfy hunger and more. Isn't that amazing? In addition to apple, it actually supports you emotionally. It supports releasing negative self-talk, and it helps us look at and release the fears that follow us into learning and growing. We can honestly look at our self-judgment, and we realize that it's hindering and its self-abusive content isn't true. And the addition of apple tea to our day provides a way for peace to come forward, and it releases us from self-sabotage behaviors. Can you imagine in a cup of apple tea? So when you start thinking about now, do I want more water today, or do I want to add something like this in? And if you have those monkey thoughts running through your mind all the time about how you're not good enough, or this is too hard for me, I can't do those kinds of things, those kinds of phrases that you say, then start to think about how apple is going to change that for you. I'm just going to have another sip. Okay. Now there are lots of different apple teas that you can have, and we do have several apple blends at the Cape Breton Tea Company. So there is Apple Passion, there is Merry Moments, and there's also Hug in the Holidays. Those are just the ones off the top of my head. So there definitely are other blends with apple in them, so you can still get that same quality. But let's see what else is in this blend that can help to bring some more out. So this tea contains the hibiscus, the rosehip, vanilla, the honeybush, and ginger, right? And we want to know what the relationship of those herbs are to apple. So let's look at honeybush. So this is a plant that comes from South Africa. It has bright yellow flowers, and it offers a sweet, woody flavor to the tea. And it's without adding any sugar. I add it to a lot of the green tea blends and the black tea blends because it takes the bitterness out. Even if you make the tea correctly, with what temperature you put the water at and how long you steep everything for before you pull the herbs out, sometimes you can still have that that hint of it's a real black tea or it's a green tea. And I like the experience to be the quality of the blends together. And Honeybush seems to be the connector that brings everything together. And you see now why it's in this tea. All right, Honeybush can support sleep challenges, balancing gut bacteria. So we've got apple and Honeybush doing the same thing. Gut bacteria balanced by tea. Healthy digestion, respiratory health, anti-inflammatory assistance for specifically lungs, coughs, congestion, asthma, and it supports the circulatory system by supporting the lining of the blood vessels. So Honeybush also is a support for releasing anxiety and sleep health. Now, those are two big things that students often have happening for them. And anxiety ramps up every day as the assignments don't get done, the exams, the papers, all of that can really wreak havoc on how you're going to feel. But if you can calm that anxiety just by gently suggesting throughout the day through herbs, it can really make a difference on the sleep pattern at the end of the day. Let's look at what Honeybush supports spiritually. It is our gateway to happiness, the sweet things in life, about healing, about passion. And as you think about studying and growing with your learning and the relationships at school, you can see how both apple and Honeybush can be empowering for you. Okay, so I talked about the 5-element wheel, and I talked about how all these herb blends balance those 5 elements. What I do want to say is, when the elements are not in balance, those are the emotions. So wherever the imbalance is occurring, those are the emotions that will pop up for you. So if you have the wood element as an example, it's in a little bit of stress, the liver and the gallbladder. If that happens, anger and resentment can come forward. So even though you might not necessarily need to respond to a situation with some anger, you do, because that system is out of balance, and that's the emotion that comes out. So when you can keep those 5 elements in a balance all the time, that changes the way you respond, but also the way you think, and less of the self-sabotaging kinds of talk, because you're going to be balanced and feeling well, which means that you can go forward in confidence. Okay. Now you're wondering probably about the rest of the ingredients, and I was so excited as I was working to bring this together. So let's look at hibiscus. Hibiscus is like an antibiotic. It lowers cholesterol, helps with inflammation, and it's great for digestion. Hibiscus helps us find emotional healing and balance. It brings love inside of us and guides us to inner peace. It is also known for abundance and prosperity, which a student, that could mean you don't race. It could mean balance while you're finishing projects, having enough time to study, and having the right resources when you need them. That can make a huge difference. That's hibiscus. Now, when you complement that with what I said about apple, you can see how they work really well together. Let's go to rosehip. Rosehip is a great antioxidant. This supports cell health and heart health. Now, I didn't put high antioxidants on the package. I chose to put herbal because sometimes people are looking for that. But it does have a high antioxidant content. So I just wanted to bring that forward. All right, we have cell health and heart health, and it takes over 100 days to produce a rosehip. If you think about that, the roses actually, sometimes bushes will bloom for weeks with roses, but roses actually only last for a couple of days. They bloom, they're beautiful, and quickly they change because the rosehip is where so much quality is going to be added. We think it's in the petals that are coming in the flower. Rosehip helps us to realize we're at the right place at the right time, and that love, self-care, and healthy relationships are ours to own. Isn't that amazing? So now when you think about the quality of, usually hibiscus and rosehip kind of go together as a group. You think about how they support each other. It's a pretty incredible combination. Now we have vanilla. Vanilla is it's amazing. Vanilla produces a feeling of calm, and the aroma is an instant way to relax. So as I was talking about how you get those senses going right at the beginning. It supports heart health and dental health. That was a surprise for me. Vanilla helps with dental health. It's incredible. And it's an ally for the nervous system. This is necessary for us to release our anxiety and stress. It helps with stomach challenges like bloating, upset, nausea. All this can be supported by vanilla. So offering a feeling of peace and tranquility, vanilla can bring balance and flow to stressful situations and schedules. As a student, that can be important, but I can tell you as a working person, that can be really important too. Okay, so I'm going to have another sip. Whatever you have there, cheers. Look at what we're learning about. One tea. It's so incredible. Okay. Now, as we go forward from here, let's look at something that HoneyBEE has been paired with. 3 beautiful colleagues of mine during the pandemic, we decided that we wanted to write a book to support people with very simple energy tools to help them daily. And we got together to produce the book called BioEnergetic Essentials, an introduction to simple self-care tools to create ease and calm in your world. I'm just going to hold up the cover of it so you can see. I'll just turn it so the sun doesn't quite catch it. All right, my colleagues for this are Natasha Polomsky. She's a specialist in frequency using singing bowls, therapeutic singing bowls, koshi chimes, gongs, happy drums. She has an incredible way of supporting the body through how frequency comes to it and how frequency can pick up all the systems. Then we have Tanya Levy, a counselor at our local community college. She supports a lot of students who are coming back, adult learners, and also she is an artist. And her artistry comes through photography that she transforms into incredible pictures. So that's some of the other products that we've also produced. Tanya's been a part of that. And then Paula Nowak-Droog. Paula was an educator for many years. She's now retired from that. She also worked in administration. And so she has that background in what students experienced, what they needed. But now she's worked with Compassionate Inquiry, Gabor Mate's work. She has also worked as an instructor for Touch for Health, and she's worked with Therapeutic Touch, among many other skills that she has. So you can see what we've brought to the table, some pretty powerful tools. So on my behalf, on my background is in movement to heal the body. So it's been through dance and Tai Chi, but I also have had my view of the world altered by my knowledge of Chinese medicine through Touch for Health and how organ systems and the muscles in the body link to each other and how they link with emotion. And the tools that come from Touch for Health, for me, they are what everybody should have in their back pocket every day. And the same with my therapeutic touch training. I believe everyone should have a level 1 foundations, because when you have that, you know how to instantly support yourself in a first aid situation, not necessarily where you have to deal with a cut or broken bone or blood, those kinds of things, but first aid in regard to emotional support, spiritual support, and mental capabilities. Okay, so now that you have that background on us, we all belong to the Canadian Association of Bioenergetic Wellness. Well, I know that's a mouthful. We call it CanBeWell. And at canbewell.org, what we did was we put this book up on canbewell.org as a free ebook. So if you want to download a copy of this, you go to canbewell.org. On the main page, it'll say free ebook. And you just click on that and you'll be able to download the PDF of this book. If you decide you want a hard copy of it, then you're more than welcome to go to my shop on the greenwellcenter.com, just greenwellcenter.com, and you'll see Bioenergetic Essentials hard copy, and I'm happy to get you a copy of that. Inside are lots of tips and tools. So what are some of the things that you might be able to find there? And I'm going to share this with you
because these tools are right here. And so many people just try to struggle through their day and they go, I've got my things that I do. You do, but are they effective? Because you're still suffering from anxiety, still have stomach issues, not sleeping well, not staying hydrated, then those tools are not supporting you 100%. And they may be ones that you do because of a habit, because somebody told you it was good for something, but they might not be the priority tool that you actually should be using. And then those tools might work better. So I'm introducing you to the concepts that are in here. So I've just opened it to the table of contents just so you can see. So it's a long list. So for those people listening, I have got a page and a half of table of contents. So we have ways of assessing stress. We have the awareness of the five senses. And I know that seems basic, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. We have self-care essentials, noticing or checking in with your body. They also refer to that as HALT. It's the acronym that they use. Things about drinking water, breathing, centering, grounding, how neurovasculars can calm you. Transforming emotions through acupressure. Switching on exercises. Switching on balances the brain to be able to learn with all hemispheres connected. I'll say all hemispheres because we have right and left. We also have front and back, and to be able to bring that forward. And this also connects how your body interacts with the brain. That's the key for learning. Not just get your brain engaged, you have to get your brain and body engaged. There's auditory enhancers, cross crawls. There's my feet first rub, which transforms all kinds of things. There's a call to compassion. There's how the 5 element cycles work. Sound and color, how color can make your day, color meditation. You can see it's jam-packed. And the last part in there is muscle monitoring. This is how you start to find priorities and you work with the tools that only for the priority at the moment, rather than throw everything plus the kitchen sink at it, which takes time and effort. Go to the one tool, maybe two, that you need to pull it all together. Okay, so I'm closing up the book. Let's look at awareness. All right, this I have used through all my programming. This is now a key component because people are shut down in their bodies, not aware so much, or aware of things externally, but not on the inside. And so trying to bring that awareness back in. So let's start with, how are you functioning at the moment? So if you turn your head, I'm hoping you're sitting up straight, first of all. If you're not sitting up straight, you might want to sit up before we do this exercise. But from where you're sitting, you're going to turn your head one direction and see what it feels like, how far you can see when you turn. And then we're going to go the other direction. Ooh, and notice what that feels like. Left side's always just a little bit different. Got a little bit more that catches on that side. All right, so now you know what that feels like. So for me, I am not at my optimum at the moment, as much as I tried to be before starting this podcast. So now that we know that, let's check in with the breath. Where's your breath at? Now, if you were sitting back and you were all slumped over, you would have had a very shallow breath at the top of the chest. So you might have sat up. If you did, let's check in with what that breath is doing now. So where is it going? Is it going into the top of the chest? Or is it going into the middle? Are you feeling all of the ribs expanding and contracting? Can you feel your diaphragm dropping and lifting? Is your belly moving? Yeah, I have the whole belly moving. So we definitely want the whole belly moving. You want to feel the ribs opening and closing. You want to feel the whole chest cavity engaged in breathing. So if you don't feel that and it's locked and the breath is up here, lung is a part of grief, guilt, and regret. So then you can imagine, regret's really easy when you're a student. I didn't take enough time to study. I should have had more time on this project. I didn't put enough effort into. You can see where those thoughts come, and there's regret showing up. Right? So breathing is really important to what we're doing. Okay, let's go to back awareness. So if you were slumped over in the chair, you would have been sitting on your tailbone. That means you shut off the cerebral spinal pump, which takes the fluid up the spine to the brain. So if you're back on that, you shut that pump off and you're not nourishing everything as it needs. If you were sitting up straight, as you're sitting there, can you notice the space between each of the vertebrae? Now, I know new students into my classes will look at me like, what are you talking about? They've never thought about it, never experienced it before. But I can tell you when I've engaged in an activity and all of a sudden the space comes into the vertebra, I feel completely lifted, like those sponges, those discs between the vertebra have space. They're not compacted, each vertebra stacked on top of the other one. They're supposed to have space and openness. Because as I was talking about Natasha's specialty in frequency, each vertebra has its own frequency, but not if it's squished. So when you have that space, then those bones start vibrating at the frequency that is optimum for them. And each of those bones goes out to an organ system, goes out to different muscles, and they all relate to different emotions. So now you can see how the spine can play a significant role in your emotional balance, those monkey thoughts that run through your mind, and your capability of confidence and determination to go forward with your learning. So the spine is really, really important for you to be optimizing your learning capabilities. So you can think about how you're sitting. Okay, now let's go to whole body movement. So I'm sitting to do this podcast. I'm sure you're sitting as you're listening to this podcast. So if you think of whole body movement, this is one tool that we can use. So what I'm going to get you to do, it's in here as an auditory enhancer. I use it for a lot of different things. We're going to rub the ear. So we're going to rub from the top of the ear, unwinding the earlobe as you come down. You're going to get to the bottom, just give a little tug. And then take your fingers up, go a little bit deeper into the tissue and just give a little pull as you're coming through. And then the last part is towards the center of the ear. Okay, so we've got one ear. So now you're going to notice it start to heat up. It may turn red. That's great because we've inspired all the systems in the body because they have an endpoint in the ear. It's incredible. The body is just so beautiful. Intricate and beautiful. Okay, so there's that ear. So I've rubbed both ears. Right, when you turned your head to see how did it feel to turn on each side, you knew how far you could see. So now I want you to turn your head and see if that range of motion has changed. Mine definitely did. And when I go to the other side, yeah, that catch that was in the top of my shoulder in the upper trapezius is now gone. All right. What you may notice, which probably didn't happen the first time you turned your head, is when you turned this time, your belly engaged. So try turning, and you'll notice how the belly becomes a part of the turn. And you may have tried to stop it because you wanted an isolated movement, but actually, whole body movement is important for proper function. So when you turn your head and you notice the belly engage, and the belly helps you turn, that means you're no longer just going to try to turn with the muscles that are in the neck. You're going to use the whole body to create that turn. And that's where you have the power of all the muscles working together, the tissue all engaged in trying to help you turn. When people have isolated movement, they go to pick up a box, they ask their back muscles in the back to lift that box up. The whole front core is not connected to the back, and then that's very often when the muscle gets twinged. And then they say, I don't understand why I hurt my back. Well, it's because whole body movement wasn't present. That whole body movement is feeding the brain information. That's how the brain functions better. All right, so you can see how awareness and understanding those pieces could be helpful. Now, if you notice your breathing now, take a breath in. So you may have noticed the breath is slower. So we rubbed the ears, we gained an increased range of motion, we engaged whole body movement, and our breath started to slow down. Where's your stress going to go? Your stress is going to drop. Your body's going to be comfortable. Very simple.
Okay, let's look at the five senses. We experience life through the five senses, and we forget that. When we go to eat something, we're focused on the flavor. When we are looking at something, we're focused on the color, the object, what does it look like? The other senses kind of take a back seat, but they actually all should take a front seat. If you're out in nature, when you hear the birds, you see the birds, you see their trajectory through space, you understand the sounds they create. All of a sudden you smell the flowers, maybe the grass. You can see how it becomes a whole embodying kind of experience. With the way that we live our lives inside, in front of a computer, driving a car, we kind of get stuck in these ruts of just living with the information of one or two senses. And we're really not encompassing the full piece. Okay, so smelling the tea is something I brought forward. It helps to balance the nervous system. It goes right into calming. It can create a change in the body instantly. And it's perfect for studying and learning something new. So I add that sip again because I've given you a lot of information. It gives you that moment to pause. Just let that information go in. Okay, so let's look at switching on the brain. Engaging the planes of the body in interaction is what's going to feed the brain. We have side to side, so right and left. We have up and down, top half of the body to bottom half of the body. And then we have the front half to the back half. We also have what is known as the front, middle, and the back. All the cells, the structures, everything oriented themselves in utero in development of the fetus in a multi-directional way, front, middle, back, as well as all these other planes. And when we go to just experiencing life on these individual kind of component pieces, we lose track of that. But our body really responds to the knowledge that comes from that. And our cells function better when we have that same opportunity. So what we need to do is converse in all ways for the best learning, attention, focus, and then of course understanding. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to take my fingertips. I'm going to go on either side of my collarbone. If you're listening and driving in the car, you may want to wait, do this afterwards. Okay, but for those of you that have the capability, if you go to the collarbone, there's a little kind of U shape right at the center. You're going to go just below that and a little bit wider. And you'll notice there's going to be two kind of soft spots that your fingers will kind of soften into. That's the spot. Your other hand is going to make like a bear claw. So I've got my 5 fingers kind of looking like I'm going to grab onto a jar lid. Okay, and I'm going to take those 5 fingers just in that shape and I'm going to place it over top of the belly button. And I'm going to place it just like those 5 fingers are going to be touching. And then there's a cone with the palm of the hand. Okay, and we're going to just rub in a circle those points on the chest underneath the collarbone. All right, so this is for switching from side to side, right and left. And there are lots of other things we can do with this exercise. This is the most basic component. Okay, we do about 10 seconds, then we're going to switch to the other side. So the other hand becomes the bear claw over the belly, and then the fingertips are going to go on either side of the collarbone, and we'll rub that. So one of the things you can do with this exercise is include eye tracking, and that can be very helpful for students studying and bringing everything online for the best and fastest way to remember information. Okay, so that's our side to side switching. So now we're going to go to up and down switching, top half of the body to bottom half of the body. So we're going to touch the top of the lip and the bottom of the lip at the same time. And we're going to rub them back and forth. Like you're brushing your teeth, but you're moving the skin instead. The bear claw hand is going to go over the belly button. And we're going to rub back and forth, side to side, over those spots. Now I'm using my index finger, my thumb, top and bottom. Some people like to do their index finger on the top, middle finger below. So whatever works for you, that's great. All right, and we're going to change hands and rub the other side. All right. So this is great for how people track up and down, and that can be paying attention to a lot of details. Also coordinating the top half of the body to the bottom. We don't usually think about how they're not going to coordinate, but if you are engaged in learning how to work with some different tools, or you are doing some physical activities, this is going to be really important for how you're orienting yourself in space. Also for if you're doing anything creatively, how you orient yourself on a page or in a project. Okay, now the last one, just make a fist with your hand. You're going to take it, you're going to put it on your tailbone. You're going to rub around on your tailbone, and the other hand is going to be a bear claw. So I'm just taking one hand behind. Now, if you can't reach your tailbone, maybe your arm can't go back there, you can imagine that you are. You could also just get a back scratcher, and you could do it that way. So I'll just plant that seed. All right, and we're going to change hands. So the other hand is going behind, the other hand is over the belly button. All right. Okay, now to evaluate what difference did that make, I'm going to ask you this question. If you think about how you're sitting up straight, does it now feel like each of the vertebrae are separated? There's more space between them? And do you feel like sitting up has a lot less effort? You might notice a little bit of vibration. Your feet might be vibrating, maybe your ankles, could be your hands. There's different ways that you brought yourself alive and just being aware of what that was. What I notice is through my spine, I notice that it lifts and separates, and then I know I've taken better care of me. Okay, we have had almost an hour of learning and discovery. We had our HoneyBEE tea and the BioEnergetic Essentials book help support you. So if these pieces are something that you think are going to be very valuable for your learning, then what I suggest you do is check out the HoneyBEE tea in the shop. So you can go to capebretontea.ca, or you can get there from Camberwell. Camberwell.org is where you're going to find the free copy of the book. But you can also get to the shop at thegreenwellcenter.com. And I said the in front, but there isn't. It's greenwellcenter.com. All right. You can get the tea in a 50-gram bag or a 100-gram bag. I recommend that if you're a student, get the 100-gram bag. Make it not cups of tea, but make pots of tea. Whatever you don't drink, you can make into ice cubes. You can add it to the switchel recipe, which you'll see on the website. That's an electrolyte replacer. Excellent. If you do workouts, you're involved in sports or dance, this is a great way to replace the electrolytes, but also a great way for nutrients. So HoneyBEE is great for that. And whatever tea is left over, throw it in the fridge, and then you'll have it for the next day. You won't get much more mileage out of the package that way, but as a student, the 100 grams is going to get you a lot further. And as you can see by the ingredients, it's going to be very supportive to what you're doing. All right, there's your tools and tips as a student. There's more coming because this is just one tea blend in the Cape Breton Tea Company, and we have a lot of ways to really support your learning this fall. Thank you for listening, journeying with the resources. Best wishes as you find the priority tools to help you with your day and learning. Cheers. All right, I'm going to make some switchel with my leftover HoneyBEE. Take care, everyone.